Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to day 4 of the Agrf 2021 Summit. It's been 4 exciting days, over 8,000 participants online from 103 countries. Today is the final press briefing, and we have a distinguished guest panelist. This session will run in 2 panels. And for the first panel, we are joined by His Excellency Haile Mariam Desalegn, the chair of Agrf and Agrf Partners Group and former Prime Minister of Ethiopia. We are joined by Professor Hamadi Boga, the Principal Secretary, State Department for Crop Development and Agricultural Research, and Dr. Fadel Ndiame, Deputy President for Agrf. Welcome to the session. So today is an exciting day, 4 days, 103 countries, over 400 speakers. His Excellency, would like to hear your reflections on the summit and what we can expect moving forward into 2022 and towards the UN Food Systems Summit coming soon. Welcome.
Excellencies, members of the press, welcome and thank you for engaging us. I think the Sustainable Development Goals are not just a nice vision, but they are our blueprint to delivering a better, more equal, and where no one is left behind. But as we saw last year, it is easy to go off target, and we are now off track. So we have to bounce back and accelerate. So this is one of the main message that we have taken from our Agrf. This year's Agrf came at a pivotal time as we regroup and agree on how to transform our food system. We need to increase our sustainability, diversity, and resilience to carve out a new and a stronger path for our food systems. To recap, I think this year's Agrf has helped us to understand, perhaps for the first time for many of us, including you in the media, what food systems are and what they mean for us on this continent. COVID-19 amplified our understanding, but pressures on the way we produce and consume food. We cannot be sure we can reach the goal of ending hunger if the status quo continues. Here at Agrf, we have heard a loud call for us to develop a more integrated approach to our food system. This begins with agriculture, but goes right the way through the business of food until it ends on our plate or in our trash. We have heard that we have to think the whole way from production to consumption. We need food systems that are built on biodiversity gains, net zero carbon goals, and healthy and nutritious food. None of this will happen without technology, innovation, finance, and trade. Over the past 4 days, we have seen partners make commitments on renewable energy, training of women, and the establishment of value chains, and setting aside some funds. In my years, I have not seen such consensus or determination to change, and this is very encouraging. Again, we are all responsible for accelerating action towards 2030. We must end hunger and poverty on this planet. Our first step is to ensure we build momentum, and this momentum should not be lost. We can do this by ensuring the commitments and calls made here are elevated to the next UN Food Systems Summit taking place after 2 weeks. In turn, this should be considered in every government's development plan as well as fiscal resource and budget. We must remain committed to what we agreed to here, and accountability and transparency will be critical. And of course, think about leadership, where Kenya has witnessed in this AGRF. Our host country is a fine example with a focus on youth and school-based education and food systems, and it's building the foundations for a strong resilience food system, and other African countries should emulate this. But leadership can't stop with governments. And as the 2021 AGRF concludes, I urge everyone to do their part for transforming Africa's food systems. I think my colleagues in this media engagement can explain their part. This is our time to fix our food systems. We must be intentional, bold, and relentless in our quest to feed Africa and the rest of the world.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency. Strong calls there. Strong calls for leadership and responsibility to all of us, not just governments. And I want to take it to you, Professor Boga. What are your reflections for the AGRF 2021? What do you call for from all stakeholders, and what can we look forward to seeing from Kenya?
Thank you very much. When His Excellency Haile Mariam Desalegn and Agnes Kalibata came rather on short notice and requested us to host the AGRF, we stood up and took the challenge, and we worked together with Agrf and the team and the AGRF team to make this happen. We are happy that we took up the challenge, and we are happy that it succeeded, and a lot of us could get the opportunity to interact around this very important subject of food. It's out of the realization that the world is this year talking about food and food systems, and all of us are reminding ourselves about our obligations to feed the world and to end poverty. So this is a timely conversation, and for us in Kenya, we've been having this conversation for the last 4 years, since the time when His Excellency the President stepped out with the Big Four agenda, which had the 100% food and nutrition security pillar. So it wasn't a new conversation. It only gained in urgency because everybody was talking about it. And in our discussions in Kenya, we have mainly been focusing on the issues of inclusion, making sure that the smallholder farmers are at the center of it, because majority of our production system is supported by smallholder farmers. And of course, thinking about growth so that we could produce enough for the country, for the world, but also support the growth of agro-processing and creation of jobs for the many youth. A large proportion of the population in Kenya is youth, and so we have focused also on welcoming youth into the agriculture sector through various approaches, as you saw yesterday during the Youth Summit, His Excellency the President interacting with the members of the 4K clubs. But the most important thing that we have to do through various approaches is to continue urging our young people and encouraging our young people to embrace this sector. In Kenya, we have the sad statistics is that the average age of the farmer is 59 years old, and the average age of the consumer is 17 years old, which makes it upside down, and we have to change these statistics. And that is why a lot of our efforts are going to the youth, so that we can, sustainability means also making sure that the youth step up into this sector. Otherwise, our investments as part of the strategy have also gone into data and digitization and investment in research to support the farmers with the latest innovation and the latest solutions in terms of seed, agronomic advice, as well as plant protection solutions. We have also learned from the pandemic that it's important to have a system for preparing stakeholders for such shocks that come out of either pandemics or desert locusts, and working in a collaborative manner to face some of these challenges, which sometimes come unexpectedly. We worked very well with UN agencies around the issue of locusts, and successfully and build our own capacity to do so. So as we move forward, my rallying call to other public entities, especially those running ministries, is to work with stakeholders, create an enabling environment, be open to new ideas and innovations. There are a lot of them out there, and have the capacity to pick the right ones for the circumstance in the different countries. So thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing you in New York.
Thank you very much, Professor Boga. Some truly staggering statistics there. 59-year-old farmer, 17-year-old average consumer. More needs to be done. Openness, inclusion, digitization, all really strong calls for us to take leadership at our own level. We come to you, Dr. Fadel. What are your reflections of the 2021 summit? What should we expect from Africa moving into the UN Food System Summit and beyond?
Thank you very much, Carol. I think standing on the chair side, and from PS Boga, I'm happy to report that this week, Africa's continental footprint and voice was really heard in Nairobi. We attracted, as you said earlier, over 80,000 people across 103 countries over the course of the 4 days. And due to COVID-19, we have also a significant presence in how do you say it again? People meeting in person. Now, it's important to highlight the fact that the world was here. We welcome the world because we are at unique times where we are dealing with collective challenges that we need to handle. From that point of view, we want to thank again the government of Kenya for really taking the opportunity to provide leadership in this difficult concept. And we also noticed, PS Boga, it was not only from your department, it's a whole government effort, which also speak to the need to have a coordinated effort across different ministries, but also across different stakeholders. And what I want to say is, as part of our continental ownership of AGRF, we want to make sure that moving forward, we'll have a similar format when we go back to Kigali, which is our home base for AGRF. I think we all have to remember that AGRF is about partnership. It's really partners coming together to drive a common agenda. And this year, the focus of this partnership was around building resilient food system, particularly in light of the entire global communities coming together and converging on the 23rd of September in New York to talk about food system summit issues. And we want to say that AGRF already played a significant role in preparing for that. Now, we've seen how important it was to have all African development partners converge, and that speaks to the need for the diversity of voices around a shared concern. And those goals around eliminating hunger and poverty will not happen if we don't come together, work together, deliver together, and be accountable to each other. So I think the motto now is we have to change what we do and accelerate our pace. This is our time. This is the time to do it. I also want to highlight the fact that this was a very inclusive AGRF. And I think to the point you made earlier, youth and women led prominently across the AGRF Summit program. And I'll give you some statistics, even though we're still counting. I'm happy to report that 38% of all participants in the deal room were women. This is not good enough. We're actually aspiring to more, and I'll give you more later. But I want to highlight at this stage that advocate, we're able to address challenges and opportunity directly to the president of CEO. I think we're all impressed by seeing this young man having this dialogue with the president of Kenya. It was such an inspiring conversation, and I think it set the stage of what needs to happen if we need to bridge the gap between the consumer being too old and the young and the producer being too old. The other point I would like to highlight is the promise of AGRF was a coordinated voice of Africa preparing for the UN Food System Summit. And I think it was so reassuring to see that, to hear commitment across a cross-section of our leaders, and I'll get back to that, committing our countries to really follow the food system approach and take concrete action, leading the way in the way we think about differently about food system and the way government lead the way in attracting private sector, supporting SMEs, and providing space for smallholder farmers, especially women. AGRF brought together leaders. We have the president of Kenya, Rwanda, Malawi, Namibia, and Uganda, and the vice president of Tanzania, spending at least 3 hours together in front of a global audience on what solution and national commitment are needed to transform our system. We think this was a clear signal sent to the other head of state who are not here. Something different is happening here, and I think we should welcome it and encourage it. 20 ministers joined the ministerial forum to identify and drive a key priority on food system transformation. 15 countries organized their own national dialogue on food system to the AGRF and engaged through the food system pathway with civil society, organization, regional economic commission, farmers, and the private sector. This is, again, the plural view, the conversation that needs to happen around food and food system. I'd like to come back to the deal room, because we were reminded last night by our director, His Excellency Zinsu, that money matters. So the deal room was exactly a platform to deal with these issues. We were able to be reminded that there is an annual gap of $30 billion in the agriculture sector. And the SME, which represent the engine of the sector, are some of the ones who have difficulty accessing those resources. The risk and cost of doing business with them are seen too high. Yet globally, availability of capital is high. So it's not that there is no money, but it cannot go to the people who need it. SMEs, smallholder farmers, women and youth. And the dual room was designed exactly to take on this challenge squarely. We brought together 4,300 participants from 89 countries with an investment requirement of $4.9 billion. I tell you, this happened this week here. The deal room was not just about, and not only 346 million, but they were pitching to 194 capital providers, people who are looking for deals. So that matchmaking happened. And I think these are the kind of platform and conversation that will enable us to bridge the gap we're talking about. But it's not just about money or pitching investment opportunity, it's also about learning opportunities. And participants benefited from 19 knowledge sessions with at least 160 experts.
Thank you, Dr. Fidel.
Okay, I'll hold it for that. Thank you.
I will come back to you. I just want to come to some questions for the chair, because we need to go to the second panel, and you'll join us for the second panel. Allow me to come to you, P.S. Boga, with a question from the audience. They say that the country has just declared a disaster, given a national disaster. Given this and the COVID-19 pandemic, how will you ensure that the Kenyan farmer succeed?
Yeah, thank you very much. We have 47 counties in Kenya, and 21 of these are in ASAL areas. This is arid and semi-arid, and their livelihood is mainly based on pastoralism, mostly. And so the challenge with those areas is that due to poor rainfall, most of the water sources have dried. Most of the grass is not available, pasture. So the government has mobilized resources to tackle this as a disaster in those counties. And so we have a two-phased approach. We have the other part of the country where when we look at the food balance sheet, we see that availability, access, and affordability of food is still within normal and business is happening, but we have the other part which is hurting. And so our programs are geared towards securing the livelihoods of the pastoralist communities. Right now our focus is providing water and pasture, and also because the livelihood have been disrupted, then the other focus would be cash transfers to those affected, and also food relief where that is necessary. So we have mobilized ourselves as government, but also relief agencies and other development partners, so that it doesn't come to be worse than it should be, so that we are able to manage the situation in good time. And hopefully, as the short rain comes, we'll get some relief from that also.
Thank you so much. For you, Your Excellency, the question is, what's your call for African leaders following the AGRF?
I think, as Fidel said, we had something like 6-7 leaders showed up, but the rest who have committed to be part of the AGRF because of the problem in West Africa, Guinea-Conakry, they did have emergency meeting and they couldn't show up. But otherwise, around 11 heads of state and government has committed for this forum. That shows that there is greater understanding that food systems approach is very essential, and as per the Malabo Declaration, and also our CADIP, which our leaders has decided, it's an important time in history of humankind that we need to have a sustainable, inclusive food system transformation. Otherwise, because of biodiversity loss, climate change complication, we might even see more pandemic. More viruses, deadly viruses might come up because of the biodiversity loss. These viruses are migrating from animals to humans, and that complication came because of lack of sustainability, and we were not taking care of our ecosystem and biodiversity. So I think with that understanding, I think many leaders are now committed to reverse this situation. Otherwise, we'll be ending up in catastrophe in this globe. You see, very visible flooding and wildfire. Africa has never seen any wildfire, but this year in Northern Africa, we have been witnessing wildfire like in United States and in Canada and in other Latin American countries. So this shows that our leaders has to act immediately and act robustly, even financing to the food systems transformation. I think agriculture has been left behind in many African countries. The whole food system has been neglected, and there is now an understanding by our leaders that we need to engage better and collaborate with others, and partnership, which is very important. And I think AGRF has witnessed this kind of partnership on play. So again, for those of our leaders who are lagging behind, I call upon them that this is high time that they have to act. Otherwise, we have very short period of time. We have to meet ending hunger and poverty. We have in Africa 60% of our population are below the age of 25, which is a young continent. If our leaders doesn't act now, then you will see something like what happened in South Africa recently. So the whole cities will be devastated because frustrated young people will act, whether we like it or not. So I think this is a very great moment, and the global community has to come together and fight this catastrophe that's happening in our world.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Your Excellency. And thank you very much, panelists. Strong call to act quickly and urgently because we have no time. I'll end this first panel here now, and I'll invite the next panelist. Thank you so much for your participation. Thank you. So we'll just take one photo. Yeah, just come. And sit somewhere. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, we continue with the second panel. Joined by me on stage is Ms. Maura Barry, Senior Deputy Assistant Administrative for the Bureau for Food Security. We have online Dr. David Navarro, Special Envoy on COVID-19 for the World Health Organization. We have Mr. William Asiko, Managing Director, Rockefeller Foundation Online. And we have Ms. Elizabeth Nsimadala, President of the Pan-African Farmers Organization. Welcome to the second session. I'll start with Dr. Navarro, who is online. I know that he has to go for another engagement. Dr. Navarro, thank you for joining us. Please talk to us about what this summit means for Africa and what can we look to build forward better post-COVID-19.
Thanks very much indeed, and an honor to be with you all. I'm going to be very, very brief. First of all, as we've heard from the first panel, food systems need the attention of local, national, and regional leaders. And unless they receive that attention, there are major problems already appearing, but they're just going to get worse. But if we get food systems right, then they can help contribute to a sustainable, equitable, and resilient world. It's simple. Get food right, and the prospects are pretty good. Leave food as it is, the prospects are really bad. Now, COVID-19 is actually both sharpening the issues and making them more difficult. So a couple of words. The virus is here to stay. It's not going to go away anytime soon. And we are faced with incredible inequity in access to the one thing that can really reduce suffering associated with this virus, which is access to the vaccines that are presently available. And there's a world shortage, and unfortunately, rich nations are apparently kind of trying to hoover up many of the vaccines that are available in our world today, offering boosters to their populations. And this really is creating an extremely unfortunate situation. And so I think one of the issues we have to do is to work through how to deal with the extra challenges associated with COVID-19 and also how to take account of the enormous unfairness in the global response to this virus. And so that brings me to Agrf. It's an amazing event. It's shown that there are tough challenges in Africa, but the African common position on the future is amazing. The nature of the work that you've undertaken during this forum is a sign of the willingness of African leaders and African agricultural and food groups to work together, creating platforms, undertaking learning, looking for investment, and moving forward together. Last point, the summit. Summit's in 2 weeks' time. It's going to set the stage for transforming food systems. Can the summit build on this experience from within Africa? Can the summit build on all the dialogues that you just described, Feda? Can the summit actually set the path to a future approach on food systems? Well, in the last 8 months, thanks to the work of Dr. Agnes Kalibata, the Special Envoy for the Food Systems Summit, more than 100,000 people have been involved in intensive explorations about the future of food systems all over the world. Thousands of organizations have organized multi-stakeholder dialogues in a very structured and open way. Hundreds of governments have taken forward national dialogues, and nearly 100 will, by the time of the summit, develop pathways that describe how they are going to achieve the food systems they need in the future. The work of Agrf is contributing to all that, and the result, I believe, will be new ways of governing food systems that will really lead us towards the SDGs, and using food systems to strengthen our capacity to deal with stresses like COVID-19, like climate change, like other disasters, including desert locusts, like conflict, because we need to be sure that food systems are robust and resilient in the face of these kinds of stresses and can lead us to the future. I am confident that the summit will usher in 2 years of intensive work on the future of food systems. I'm confident that we will continue to see intensive work on food systems of the future, somewhat stimulated by the COVID-19 pandemic. And I thank AGRF for showing the way. It really has been a remarkable event. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Navarro, for your strong comments that the virus is here to stay and we must get this right. Coming back to you, Ms. Morabori, why is this summit important for Africa? And why is it important for Africa to have a unified agenda in the lead up to the UN Food Systems Summit?
Thank you. First of all, I want to take the opportunity to really congratulate the AGRF on a successful deal room and a successful summit. You know, USAID is encouraged by the talks that we heard this week to bring a unified African agenda around food systems, and especially as we look towards the UN Food Systems Summit happening in, just around the corner, we've seen important conversations take place this week to promote African leadership for food systems transformation. We know that significant progress has been made toward meeting Africa's ambitious food security goals and the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. However, as other speakers have emphasized, we also acknowledge that the lasting impacts of COVID, the continuing impacts of climate change and conflict, they have really disrupted the growth and the trajectory for so many countries. I want to underscore that USAID stands ready to support Africa's vision to meet food security objectives, and we remain committed to transforming agricultural systems, increasing access to safe, nutritious food, and strengthening resilience. At USAID, through the US Feed the Future initiative, we'll have additional details to announce at the UN Food Systems Summit. So this is just a teaser, and we're finalizing our new global food security strategy. In particular, the US government's updated strategy on food security will focus on elevating climate impacts, including water security, equity and inclusion, strengthening food systems to improve nutrition, and strengthening resilience. Our approach will continue to bring evidence-based solutions to accelerate and protect our food security progress. And for climate change specifically, we're eager to build partnerships for the Agricultural Innovation Mission for Climate, or what we are referring to as AIM4C, AIM4C. AIM4C is a US government interagency initiative designed to accelerate global innovation and research for food systems and climate action. And these partnerships will work to deploy more climate-smart technologies, mobilize private sector investment and finance, and work hand in hand with the scientific, the academic and private sectors to holistically improve food systems. And we're also actively engaging with other US government counterparts around the UN Food Systems Summit to identify evidence-based solutions that will make safe, nutritious diets more accessible and affordable for women and children. So for example, we know that large-scale food fortification builds micronutrient benefits into the food supply. So when we see greater centralization of food processing and increasing urbanization and more processed foods, both in rural and urban markets, we know that a large-scale food fortification approach will allow us to reach more people with proper vitamins and minerals in their diets. So in closing, on your question, I want to say that we look forward to continuing a coordinated effort between development partners, African governments, the private sector, civil society, and other stakeholders to transform food systems and achieve the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. And I do want to underscore that a broad, diverse coalition is absolutely critical to help us reach these goals. And we will continue to prioritize women, young people, and other marginalized groups in the decision-making process. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We look forward to seeing the new strategy on global food security from USAID. I want to invite Elizabeth, who is here with us on the panel. Elizabeth is the president of the Pan-African Farmers Organization. Elizabeth, what are your reflections on the summit, and what's your call to all stakeholders?
Yeah, thank you very much. And I would like to join my colleagues in congratulating AGLF partners on successful AGLF 2021, but also most importantly, the Farmers Forum. And listening from the previous speakers and all the sessions that have happened at the AGRF, I think the fact is that we cannot achieve food security unless we act. And what does that mean? It means we need to reduce the imbalances and be inclusive across the value chains. We need to be equitable enough. We need to be fair. And we need to give true value of food to the farmer. We cannot attain all this if we are still working the way we are. We need a complete affirmative shift in terms of how we are supporting the agriculture sector. I think as farmers, we've really attained enough capacity to be able to be supported direct and manage the kind of support that is coming to us. But as it is today, most of the support coming to the farmers is usually through proxies, is usually through civil society organizations. And so my call to AGRA and all the AGRF partners is that, yes, we are also seeing some broken bridges in institutions like yourselves and government. But this is an area where you can as well build internal capacity and be able to deal with us directly. And try as much as possible to accelerate the capacity that we have, strengthen it, give us the resources so that we can be able to address some of the challenges and the gaps that are existing today. Looking at the agriculture policy in most of the African countries, I think they really lack an analysis to be able to attract investments. For example, the agriculture sector has been heavily taxed. But at the end of it all, who bears this cost? It is the farmer. I remember recently we were battling here with the Kenyan government when they had introduced VAT tax on inputs. But I'm happy that they were able to listen and that VAT was vacated. In my own country, in Uganda, where I come from, I'm a banana wine producer. But for every liter of banana wine that I produce, I have to pay 2,000 shillings as a tax. And what does that mean? On the other side, government is busy, launching Bubu, Buy Uganda, Build Uganda. But then, how are you going to build Uganda when the farmers that are struggling to make sure that they add value have to face all these taxes? And as I face the tax, I have to increase this value on the final product, which makes it less competitive on the market. Because I don't see why a consumer is going to buy my bottle of wine when he can buy 4 cousins from South Africa at the same price. So I think we need to really see also a shift in the policy environment so that we can have an enabling policy for the agriculture sector. I think, and for a long time, most of the partners, yes, you've heard our cries as farmers, but this has not been reciprocal in terms of investments that you're putting aside for us. And I hope the Food System Summit is going to be an opportunity, it's going to be a platform where we are going to have mutual partnerships, where we can speak as partners in development and in making sure that we accelerate actions towards achieving resilient food systems. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. Really strong call for equity to create the true value of food, to deal with farmers directly, to build their capacity and resources. I'm just about to close the press briefing. We have run over time, but I'd like to invite Mr. William Asiko of the Rockefeller Foundation. The Rockefeller Foundation has have partnered with the IKEA Foundation on a $1 billion global platform to fight climate change and energy and poverty. How will this assist, or how are you looking at this fund assisting the global community? We'd like to hear more about it, and I welcome you, William.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I will be very brief. So for us at the Rockefeller Foundation, we have been supporting AGRA and by connection Agrf since way back in 2006. We were one of the founding partners of AGRA and have continued to support AGRA to this day. So we're very proud of the achievements that Agrf 2021 has achieved, and we are very pleased to be associated with them. I'm particularly pleased in my personal capacity on what has taken place in the deal room because I was there at the inception, although wearing a different hat, at the inception of the deal room. So congratulations to you all who have been involved in this. So for us at the Rockefeller Foundation, we did enter this AGRF with optimism, even though the world is facing significant challenges, more so here in Africa. And I'm very pleased after attending the ministerial roundtable and also attending the presidential webinar yesterday that the commitments being made by Africa towards transforming food systems are significant. At the Rockefeller Foundation, we believe that food systems, the food systems and the climate crisis are inexorably linked, and that we are not going to transform food systems and we're not going to solve the climate crisis if we don't bring these two into alignment. So achieving this goal of ensuring that food systems are building the environment, are protecting the environment, but are also providing nutritious food, we're only going to be successful if two things happen. First, we must end the climate crisis, and second, we must bring renewable, accessible energy to nearly 1 billion people living without access to energy globally. Over half of that number live right here in sub-Saharan Africa. Food systems globally emit nearly 1/4 of the greenhouse gases that fuel climate change. Even so, the food systems of today fail to provide healthy, nutritious food for 3 billion people, including 57% of the population in sub-Saharan Africa. But reliable solar-powered energy could unlock agriculture's potential to drive sustainable development. The future of African food and energy systems are inseparable. To address this nexus, we have launched the Global Energy Alliance, catalyzed by a $1 billion investment, half from ourselves and half from the IKEA Foundation. It aims to bring 1 billion people renewable energy, reduce 1 billion tons of greenhouse gas emissions, and attain 100% to 200% gains in crop productivity. It will finance distributed renewable energy, decentralized mini-grids powered by solar and other renewable energy sources. Mini-grids avoid reliance on fossil fuel-fired plants or dirty diesel engines. They make clean energy available to smallholder farmers and agricultural entrepreneurs. for solar-powered irrigation, farm mechanization, food processing, cold storage, smart markets, and many, many more. The Rockefeller Foundation has closely aligned two other major initiatives with the Energy Alliance. First, our Good Food Initiative. The Good Food Initiative will use policy to change the food systems in ways that prioritize good food. That is, food that is nourishing, regenerative, and equitable. One example is the policies that shape public food procurement, including for hospitals and schools, and safety net programs such as food assistance. Across the continent, 100 million people benefit from such programs. Therefore, policies that steer procurement towards healthy foods, like whole grains, could benefit people and influence food systems without adding substantial cost. This is the goal of our Power of Procurement for Nutrition initiatives. Our initiatives will also redirect public and private sector investments in ways that reflect the true value of food, including the hidden costs associated with their impacts on health, environment, and economic systems. As I close, we believe that this will make healthy foods more affordable and accessible, combating hunger and malnutrition. We can build a better future. Partnerships is central to systems change and to all that we do, and we look forward to deepening our partnerships with all who have participated here in AGRF 2021 to transform Africa's food systems. I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, William. We are looking out to see the fund. We look forward to the impact it will have for Africa and the globe. Unfortunately, due to time, we'll not be able to take the Q&A. We have some speakers in this room and we've got to go to the next session. But I do thank you for your time and invite you for a group photo.
Oh.